podcast. My name is Lori Audate, the co-host for Andy Audate. How are you doing, Andy?
Amazing. Just got back from Hawaii and feeling good and feeling grateful to be back.
I know I hear you. I feel great after taking like a week of actually being disconnected, um, energized. I feel creative. Do you have that happen too? Like when you go on like personal trips or vacation, do you feel like you come back with more ideas?
I'm always like brainstorming ideas, brainstorming strategies. So I would definitely say so. Like yes, I come back with more ideas. Yesterday, or what was it yesterday? 2 days ago, we met with our friend Sergio, and Sergio who runs Facebook ads for our clients. We met with him at a party and he said, "Hey, you're back from Hawaii. What new ideas do you have?" Anticipating that by going on that trip, on those trips, personal trips, that you're gonna come back with new ideas. And yeah, for sure, I came back with new ideas for sure.
What was your favorite part of Hawaii?
Snorkeling. I would say definitely snorkeling, and because the yacht, not so much. The snorkeling was pretty dope to go. I remember like jumping into the water. So I jumped into the water of into the ocean. In the ocean, I have the mask on. I have the apparatus to breathe, and then I have the vest on, and I just look it down in the water, and all I see is just water. But then I jump in, and then I feel like I'm in the ocean, which I was, and then I put my head down for a split second, and I see hundreds, if not thousands, of fish roaming right underneath my feet, and I was like, "Whoa, this is real." I think that was the eye opener for me, where I was like, "Oh shoot, this is pretty dope."
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I remember that too. I remember thinking like we had to swim to find the fish or like the turtles. Like I'm thinking we had to go on a mission. But no, they were literally right as soon as you jump off, like right there. You could see everything. It was crystal clear. So I love that too.
Yeah, that
Well,
was pretty dope.
yeah. So what I did get inspired though from this trip that we took, I kept reflecting the whole time we were there. Like this may have not been possible when I was in a 9 to 5, as a lot of people know. I come from corporate. I did take a lot of trips when I was in corporate, but I felt like they always were at the end of the year because you're trying to save your PTO. If for anybody that's in corporate, paid time off. Or you're trying to like plan your life around your job depending your workload and things like that. So I do have a question for you in regards to this topic. Do you think it's possible, first of all, for someone to transition from a 9 to 5 job or career to owning a business?
Do I think that it's possible for someone to do it? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think if you take advantage of the technology that's available and the education that's available to you, then yes. Because if you have a 9 to 5 today, then you're working under someone else's system. You're probably not building your own system. I'm talking about specifically like if you're working for one of those big, large corporate companies, then unfortunately you're just a number, and there's not much value that you offer besides being a number in a position. And I know for me that I could never just be employee number 106, of a company, or employee 1452, and here's my employee ID, and I gotta just go by that number. That could never be me.
And what I mean by do you think it's possible? I think of the mindset piece, right? Because there is a shift that happens from knowing that you're going to get a paycheck from, every 2 weeks or sometimes weekly, sometimes monthly, depending on the role and the structure. But then as a business owner, right, you have to you anticipate that there might be some better months and some not so good months. So from that side of it, like mindset piece, what do you think a business someone that's striving to leave a job should know when it comes to the differences? 9 to 5 paycheck, yes, you're just a number, but there's a little bit of a sense of a security versus business owner. You have to be ready for that kind of hustle.
I would say this: there's a false sense of security with being in a corporate 9 to 5. If you are working a corporate 9 to 5, there's this false sense of security that whether the business is doing good or whether the business is doing bad, you make money, right? And if you have, it's kind of like the difference between being a babysitter and being a parent. right? I'm not a parent, but I've been a babysitter. But I'm sure everyone can understand and relate. Being a babysitter is that you have temporary responsibility over this child, and then as soon as you clock out, you're no longer responsible. You're no longer responsible where the kid goes, if the kids are good friends or bad friends, if the kid swallows something they're not supposed to swallow, if they eat something that they're not supposed to eat. But if they're under your leadership, then that's when you're responsible. That's a babysitter. That's what it's like working a corporate 9 to 5, where it's only when you're clocked in that you're responsible. Outside of being clocked in, you're not responsible, right? There could be something going on at work. You're like, oh, I'll see when I get there on Monday. But when you're a parent, regardless if the kid is with the babysitter, you're still responsible. If your kid is at daycare, you're still responsible. You're gonna make sure that they are taken care of wherever they go. Who are If you're on vacation, something happens with your kid, you're hopping on a plane, you're going back. Like you're responsible. Same. That's equivalent to being an entrepreneur. To be an entrepreneur, regardless of whatever happens, you're responsible. So there's this false sense of security, number one, of working in corporate, as if that you're not like I'm gonna get paid on Friday, regardless of how the business is doing. In running a business, there's also this idea of security that I'm going to have this unlimited time freedom. So you have all of these factors to think about. One factor is going to be security, another factor is going to be responsibility, and so forth. I can go deeper and deeper, but I think we should also talk about the false sense of security about the paycheck, if you like.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I come from that background of um I went from hourly at one point to then salaried, and then salary plus bonus. Uh, and for everybody that actually knows like the details of how much I made as in the corporate world, they would probably think I'm crazy because I left like a salary job plus bonuses plus a company car plus full benefits to hey, let's grow Audate Media, let's grow Progretta, right? But for me, it was the being capped. Like I was working for a salary job, as you know, you might work more than 40 hours. So whether you work 40 or 80, you're making the same amount. Um, and that false sense of security, I just learned it early on. My first role after college, that company cut the sales team in half overnight.
Yeah.
We had a big team, and then they're like, you are let go. And this was a well established financial tech company in San Francisco. I left because I wanted a different role. And then I come to find out a year later, they shut it down, moved to Texas. So I just happened to learn it early on in my 20s. Do you think that was a blessing? Because I probably would have still been in corporate had that not happened in my first career.
That's what the reality is. If someone's working a corporate 9 to 5 today, and when you're working a corporate 9 to 5, the only thing that's really common that I see on the top of my head that's common today is between a corporate 9 to 5 and entrepreneur is that you get paid based off results on both sides. If you're working corporate 9 to 5, if you're a employee, you're a manager, whatever that may look like, you get paid on results. If you're an entrepreneur, you get paid on results. But it just looks a little different. For a entrepreneur, if you're not producing results, then you have no customers to pay you. So your customers won't pay you. If you are a corporate 9 to 5, and you're not producing results to your employer, then your employer won't pay you. And the reason they don't pay you is not because they don't like you, is because of your lack of production, their customers aren't paying. And because their customers aren't paying them, they can't pay you. So at the end of the day, you're always working for the customer. This is why it baffles me sometimes when I go to like Dunkin' Donuts. And I remember one time we were on the East Coast. On the East, I live on the West Coast now, and on the East Coast, there's Dunkin' Donuts everywhere. So because we don't have that on the West Coast, when Laura and I will go and travel, we'll stop and go to a Dunkin' Donuts. And it just baffles me how sometimes some of the experience that I get where someone like this, it's like as if they don't care about their role. They don't care about the customer, not realizing, well, if you complain about the customer, you might have one day where there's no more customers coming in. And if that one day turns into 2 days, and that 2 days turns into a week of no customers, and the week turns into a month of no customers, and you're like, oh, no customers, my store is clean, everything's fine and dandy, you will find yourself out of a job. Sooner or later, you will find yourself out of a job. So an entrepreneur or a corporation, what they're going to do is they're going to make enough profit and put that money into savings. So that way, when there's ups and downs, that you still get paid. But there's only so much leeway. There's only so much length of time that they have enough savings to pay you. So it could be 6 weeks salary, 6 weeks of your salary until they realize that, you know what, we're not gonna continue to take a loss on you. So this is why when you're working a corporate job, there's this false sense of security, as if like everything's fine and dandy and I don't have to service customers. I just have to get by, kind of duck and dodge my manager, because at some point you're going to get caught in not production and not producing, and then you're going to be the one to let go, because any corporate leader is recognizing that they need to be profitable. That's number one. And number two, they need to work with people who create production. Otherwise, the entire company's carrying you, and that's when a company starts losing money and they terminate you anyway, right? So you gotta realize, whether you go from corporate 9 to 5 and you stay in corporate, or you're an entrepreneur, you're responsible for producing at any given in your career in general.
And with that being said, because I do agree that, especially when someone works in a customer service role, they might think like, "Man, this is stressful. Like, if they could just give me a break." But isn't being a business owner like you all you care about is customers? There's no customers, there's no money. So is there a mindset shift from being in a job where like, "Oh man, it's so stressful. I wish these customers would stop calling," to that's all you're gonna do as a business owner, worry about your customers? Or do people anticipate, you think, to hand it off and be like, I'm never going to be on the phones again?
No, you want to take advantage of those opportunities. If you're in corporate 9 to 5 and you anticipate to be in corporate 9 to 5 for a long period of time, enjoy those opportunities that you have customers. Like a Dunkin' Donuts, for example, if there's a long line and it's busy, you got work. Your manager is not thinking of, I'm gonna send you home. That's not happening, right? Let's say you're talking about fast food retail, right? So the manager is not thinking like, I'm gonna send this person home when there's a long line. When there's no line, that's when the manager's like, I don't need you here. And then if there's no line for a long period of time, then the owner is like, hey, I don't need any of you guys here, right? And so, you know what? It goes from take a day off to take a week off to, hey, you're laid off. And same thing happens in a corporate 9 to 5, whether you dress up in a suit and you go to work and you're in a big building, you work for a law firm. If there's no cases to work in, if there's no clients, you're not going to have work. But the same thing as an entrepreneur. If you don't have any customers, you're not going to have work. This is why I decided to go into marketing, is because I know that this is the most important role in a business's journey, is their marketing. Why? It's not about fulfillment. That's more important. It's not sales. That's more important. It's not customer service, customer retention. It's going to be marketing. Why? Because that drives the sales opportunities into the organization. The more sales opportunities a business has, the more revenue that they're making. Point blank. So that's the reason I decided to go into marketing. And as an entrepreneur, you're going to be responsible for the marketing. You're going to be responsible for the sales. You're going to be responsible for operations. You're going to be responsible for customer service and retention and customer support and billing. You're responsible for more areas on your plate. That's why you get paid more only when there's results. If there's no results, then you get paid the least. That's a whole
Very,
other
very,
conversation, man. We could have a whole
yeah.
conversation.
I know. I always, yeah, that's like I said, it's a whole other conversation because um, I think a lot of people want like the role that's simple and easy, not realizing you're the first to get cut. Like if you're not a producer, sales, or adding value, you're gone. But we'll do
Yeah.
a podcast on that another day. In regards to switching from 9 to 5, so we kind of identified the pros and the cons, the difference on how we see customers when you're in a 9 to 5 versus as a business owner. But if someone's looking to transition, so they already know they're sitting in this job because they have to pay the bills. They got, rent doesn't wait for dreams. Like we always say that, like you can't tell your landlord like, hey, I got a business plan. Should
Yeah,
someone
that's not gonna work.
go, that's not going to work. Yeah. Should someone go burn the boats, quit on Friday, start your business on Friday? I mean, on Monday, Or should you transition kind of like, let me do part-time building the business, keep the job, and then switch full-time business, no job?
I think you should maximize your career first until you get to a point where you're willing to commit. Now, there's some strategies, but number one is if you can maximize and build skill sets and get paid to build those skill sets. So, for example, if you're working in corporate 9 to 5, you can strive to become the manager and then become regional and then become a president. Like you can go that direction all while building your business, all while building your business on the side, right? And until your side business becomes profitable and replaces your income, that's when you leave. So what that journey could look like. Let's say, for example, let's share a world that I understand. So let's use, for example, sales with software. So, like for example, what I would do is, like for example, at Progredo, we have a 50-50 program where you get 50% of the recurring revenue. So let's say that I have a salary of, let's say, $10,000 a month coming in from my job. On the side, what I would do is I would build and get enough customers paying for my software on Progretta, paying for Progretta, and I would get 50% of the revenue, right? Because as an affiliate. So let's say my name is John, and I work at a corporate job. Let's say I'm an attorney. I make $10,000 a month. As an attorney working in my corporate law firm, I'm going to be making the 10 grand, but then I'm going to partner with Andy at Progretta, and I'm going to go and do a revenue share with him 50-50. Every time I get him a customer, I get 50% of the recurring revenue. I would just need to generate him $20,000 in monthly recurring revenue, and I get 10,000. I get half. So me being John, I get half. Now my salary and my side hustle is equal. That's when I would drop my corporate job, and I would just focus on my side hustle and make that the main thing, and then start growing that as the main thing.
Got it. Okay, so it's establishing like, where are you right now? Let's build and create like a partnership. So you're not having to start from scratch. Like you don't always have to go and buy inventory, buy websites, like all of that, get a business plan, get a loan. You're saying don't do that, which is very
No,
opposite from what people, I would say the word preach online. Would you agree that they're like, you can start your business with $30,000 and make a million? Like I've heard that and it makes me nervous.
no, partner with someone. Partner with someone. Don't If you try to do it on your own, especially if you got responsibility. Now, if you're like 19 years old, like okay, I can understand that you jumping off the cliff and you're willing to live in on someone's couch, and you're willing to kind of ride that wave and figure it out, and you're all in. That's essentially what I did, right? I got to that stage, right? I went all in on my business, but I was 19 years old. I was 20 years old. I had no responsibility. Today I have you as a responsibility. I have a puppy. I have this beautiful home. We have 6 figures worth of cars in the driveway. Like, there's no way I could just jump and start from scratch, brand new. There would have to be a transition, and the transition would be, I'm 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 essentially like I'm imagining a a like I'm in the middle of the ocean, and there's this pole, and in this pole I'm standing on top of this pole, like I can breathe on top of this pole, and I'm on the kind of like on this island of this pole. And what I'm saying is, don't jump in the ocean and think you're going to swim. Start building additional poles to get to the shoreline, right? So you have one, which is your job, but then you got to start building these, and you're going to start from the bottom, and then you're gonna you're gonna build it up over time, and then from there you're able to leave. So in that scenario of $10,000, build up $10,000 on the side so that we can replace your income, so that way you can grow from there. So the first step is, you're probably going to be capped at, let's say, $10,000 a month, right? Or whatever the number is, $15,000 a month in your salary. You're going to be capped. You're currently capped unless you become like a senior manager and you grow, and you don't see that growth opportunity. But you the thing I would do is just start building up that side hustle. So that way that side hustle becomes your main thing. And then from your main thing, that's when you grow. And then all while your husband or your wife or your kids aren't feeling the wrath of the new startup you know, fever, because it gets hot when you're running a new startup.
Very, very true. Um, in your experience, because you went all in, like you said, this is the one route I'm gonna take. One of the things we talked about in Hawaii, I think I asked you, like, what does your resume title say? Like your last position, like what's the title and all of that. But you mentioned that your last job was what year was it again? It was at Wendy's in.
If I had to go find my resume, I would have to. I don't. I'm looking up in Google Drive. Yeah, I can't even find my own resume. If I had to go find my resume, it would say that I worked at Wendy's. That would be my last resume. It would say Andy has worked at Wendy's. Even the Google Drive that I have right now, I've been using this specific Google Drive since 2019. I don't have a resume for Andy Audate here. I had a previous Google Drive, and I was using that Google Drive from 2016 through 2019. That one doesn't have my resume. It would be the last resume that I would have had would have been I would have used in 2014, 2013, 2014. That would have been the last time that I actually looked for and used a resume to apply for a job.
So about 10 years. But so let's say since you went all in, like you were young, you said, okay, I'm leaving Wendy's. And then you did the franchise, and then now you have the software company. Usually, especially when you see content online, people will say, like, if I did it, you can do it. How come that's not your suggestion? How come you're saying like you should do in faces? Is it, would you change something from
That's
your
a great
journey?
question. That's a great question. I think because, well, what the reality is I've gone through different stages of life, and one of the stages of life is just having a higher level of responsibility. If you have no responsibility, then you can go all in, and if you're willing to scrape your knee, and and what I mean by that is if you're willing to go through the mental challenges of starting something from scratch, literally going to zero income tomorrow. If you're okay with that, then you can go all in. That is hard. It is challenging, and it is not even necessary. It's not a strategical advance to go all in to a level of like quitting your job as far as income. Anyone that's super wealthy is gonna talk to you about leverage, right? And one of the things that you could do to leverage is you can produce value in your job and create income that can fund your business, your side hustle, right? So let's say if I'm making $15,000 a month in salary from my job, and I quit that job to go into my side hustle, and I go all in tomorrow, I start at zero. Well, there's a process to learn. You got to learn how to market your product. You got to learn how to acquire market share for your product. Identify what your offer is going to be. What are you going to sell? What is the process? So that process may take weeks, if not months, if you're brand new to it, right? To understand how to market, greet, qualify, how to present your offer, how to close deals, how to fulfill on those products that you sold, it's going to take months, if not years, right? To identify really what that process looks like and how to do it effectively and how to make money and be profitable in it. So while you're doing that learning curve, you can still be getting paid. Now, if you go down to zero tomorrow, then your bills are going to be due regardless you created for sales or not. Your bills are going to be due. And in my experience, part of my journey was I remember there was a landlord that I had that I didn't. This was my eye-opening moment. I made money in the cell phone industry. I made enough. I essentially semi-retired for a couple of years, and then it came back to the point where it's like, hey, you guys, you need to work. You're not 65. You're 25. At the time, I was probably less than that. I was probably like 20, 21, 22. So I made some money in the cell phone industry, and then I retired. I said, oh, I made enough money. I don't need to work, and then I just didn't work, and I didn't look at my bank account. I just spent money all the time. And then there was a year or a month where I started to say, how much money do I have? I went to the bank. I'm like, whoa, I'm low. I'm low on cash, and after spending enough money, I didn't have enough money for rent. I true story. This was like 2016, 2017. I didn't have enough money for rent, and I went to the landlord and I said, "Hey, I don't have enough money this rent for rent, but I have a flyer. Check out this flyer. It's my business plan. I'm going to be a speaker and I'm going to go sell products. So don't worry, I'll pay you next month. I'll pay you double next month." And then they said, "No, we'll call the police and we'll take your stuff out of the house." And that was my eye-opening moment. It happened to me only one time, and it happened only to me for 1 month. For 1 month. And here's what ended up happening. The landlord told me that they'll call the police and do what they call a sheriff lockout. That the police will come, kick me out of the property, and put my stuff on the yard. And I said, okay. So I created a product. At the time, it was a ticket that I was selling for an event that was a feature event, and I went down the street and I started door knocking and selling my product. Okay, and I sold my product. I made enough money for the rent, and then I've never gone back to that scenario. And I just stacked and I just stacked and I stacked, and I've created millions since. So I don't share that with you to impress you, but I recognize in Andy's journey, I took this deep 1 month scenario and bounced completely back, and I said I'll never go back again. And that's because I already had businesses. I already had that skill set of selling. I already had that understanding of how to get customers, why to get, I already had that skill set. And so when someone is brand new, I don't suggest that you go off the deep end, because that could happen where you're like, hey, I didn't make any revenue this month. Okay, I didn't make any much revenue the following month or the following month. So if you want to leave your corporate 9 to 5, the best way to do it is, I would say, step number one is partner up with somebody who's already doing it. So the way that I got into it in the cell phone business, so I'm going back to when I was 16, 17. I didn't know that I was learning from a mentor. I had no idea that's what I was doing. But I worked for a guy. At the time, he had 10 cell phone stores, so he was considered a small dealer. And he had probably like 40 employees at the time. And it was small enough where I can learn from this gentleman. So I learned from this gentleman on how to sell my product, how to sell products. And I had like a I had I was commissioned. I was a commissioned sales rep, and I was learning from him. I took that all that information that I learned from him, and then I started to apply to my own business. So I learned from him, and then I went to go ahead and start my own business. Today, they have over 150 employees, over 150 locations, and 600 employees today. But back then, it was very small, and so I had enough proximity to someone who was actually doing it. So if you're wanting to leave your corporate 9 to 5, here are the steps. Number one, identify someone that you can get some close proximity. You don't even want to start a side hustle and be amongst a huge pool of people. You don't want to do that. You want to start a side hustle that you can learn from the entrepreneur and have enough proximity to that entrepreneur to learn from them, because they're going to teach you the skill sets. And if you and it has to be a side hustle or a project that you're making them money. Why? Because they're going to invest in you with all the resources and knowledge to help you win, because if you win, they win. So you want to put yourself in a position where you're connected to somebody who is who's already a full-time entrepreneur. They're doing their thing. They might have a team. They already have employees. They already have staff. They already have processes. They know how to sell. They know how to market. They know how to operate. They know how to fulfill. They know how to retain customers, do customer service. They have all of that infrastructure, but they're small to the point where you have proximity to the owner. You have proximity to the top, and it's your side hustle, and they're investing in you to get that knowledge of how to sell, how to market, and how to get customers, and so on and so forth. Because if they invest in you, then you're going to build that skill set, and they're putting all their eggs in your basket to educate you. And that's number one. Number two is you're going to create results. You're going to identify what is the actual level of effort and the level of output to actually have financial success. Even if they're getting paid off of it, it's completely worth it, because you're building the most valuable thing, which is knowledge and a skill. And then number three, you do that long enough where your salary is less than your side hustle. When your side hustle is equal or more, then you leave your corporate 9 to job and you continue working with that individual who is teaching you this skill set. And at that point, you're going to be learning how to operate and do fulfillment and all the extra stuff in running a business, like how to operate the business, how to sell your products, what happens after when customers complain, when there's legal battles. You're gonna learn all that not by your experience, by that person that you're following, their experience. You do that long enough, help him grow his business or help her grow their business, and then from there you leave and you start your own business. That's the correct journey to leave your corporate 9 to 5.
Yes, I like that three-step process because it is important to identify where will you get the skills. Like if someone has been doing the same thing for 5 to 8 years and they're not being challenged in their skill sets, sales, present, qualify, then it's going to be a very intense transition to become a business owner where you must know all these things. Well, let me ask you this for the last question. If someone came to you right now and said, "Hey, I've been following you for 5 years or 2 years or 3 months, and I want to be mentored by you, nobody else. I've seen you from when you were in Rhode Island, 19, now you're about to be 30, family man and successful." If someone came to you and said, "Can I work for you?" Would that be an option? Or would you say, start? I don't know. Like, what would you say, I guess?
It depends what the long term what the long term vision is, but yeah, I'm hiring. I'm for sure hiring.
And the reason I ask is because it seems like you've pivoted from you learned a lot of skills in your journey, and would you consider yourself now like a mentor through what you've learned? Would you be able to pass on these skill sets through to someone else based on what you've learned in the last, many
Yes,
years?
yes, and it's not because of it's theory because I've actually done it. I've done it. I'm mentoring many people right now and helping them grow their businesses and to create new results. And what I found is that I'm not a theorist. I'm not someone who read a book and I'm going to tell you what I read from the book. I'm the one that was in the field selling products. I'm the one that cold called businesses to sell products. I'm the one that got 100 customers and was like, oh shoot, there's an operational infrastructure deficit inside of my organization. I need to make changes operationally. Oh man, I've lost customers. Oh, there has to be processes for customer retention. Oh, I got to build that out. Oh, hey, I can't do everything by myself. There's a process to scale a business and incorporate other people, right? We have over 30 something people that help our organization, help our customers, help our team between vendors, employees and staff. There's over 30 people underneath my leadership. Over 30 something people. I think 37 last time I checked. And so all these people are helping us either get new customers or maintain our current customers. And I know each of their roles because I've done every single part of the business. And today I can share with someone else who's starting out, hey, this is what the journey looks like. This is what it is. I think the biggest challenge for most people is actually ego. Is that, you know what? Let me figure it out myself. Let me figure it out myself. And I'm glad that I never was egotistical about my journey because I had one mentor when I was uh when I was on the younger side. I had one mentor that showed me the game, man. He showed me everything I needed to know, and I was like, dude, just I'll help you grow your business. And I helped him. I helped him grow his business. I Some of the people that I led are still today in his business, and it's been 10 years. I trained them and I taught them and I created SOPs and processes are still in their business today and are still working for him today and helping him grow his business. But I helped him grow his business as well. And I think the biggest thing you got to understand is you got to go and find somebody that you can help them grow their business because it's going to come full circle. Somebody's going to come to you and try to help you grow your business. But in you helping someone else grow their business, what you're doing is you're building a skill set and you're building knowledge of what it actually takes. So there's different times that things have happened to me in my organization and I would just reflect back like how did we handle it when it happened to my mentor? How did he handle it? How did our team handle it? And I'm like, okay, this is what you had to do. And this is what we did. And it worked. Okay, so I'm gonna do that in my business, right? So if you don't have those experiences, then you end up being stuck. So one of the things I'm saying is don't try to get rich, like get rich for sure. And if I had two options, jump off the deep end today and go on my own without any knowledge, without any experience, and leave a job, leave a corporate 9 to 5, and never ever running a business, then that would be foolish. It would be much smarter to go help someone run their business, get that knowledge, help them grow their business, And in that journey, I'm going to learn so much that no one else could teach me. No book could teach me, no school could teach me. And then from there, I'm going to start implementing it for my own. Get rich for sure. So if you spend the next 2 years identifying how you're going to help so and so with their business, in that 2 years, you're going to have more experience, more knowledge, more skills built than you would 10 years by yourself trying to run your own business without any input from outside mentors.
Yes, I agree. I think the access level is just very different when you join a business, like you said, has 30 employees, 20 employees, 10 employees. Your access level to the owner, in this case, you, would be very different than, let's say, if someone's part of a big corporation where you only see the CEO maybe once a quarter. And if you do, they send a video or they send an email versus working at the level where you are right now. They're not available every day, but definitely they would have a lot more access than if they were in a big corporation. Um,
When you're in a
what do
big
you?
corporation, you are a cog in the wheel. You don't see the bicycle. So when a cog is like one of the spokes, like so let's think of a big bicycle. You got two wheels, you got gears, you got the pedals, you got the steering, you got the bicycle frame, you got all of that. And when you're in a corporate company, corporate 9 to 5, you are actually just the one spoke in this huge bicycle rim. And you're just one spoke. And meaning that if you leave, do they really need you? Like if one spoke broke, right? That little line that when you look at a bicycle wheel and you have all of these, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 spokes all across the whole entire bicycle wheel, if you lose one, it doesn't really negatively impact the bike, right? At some point, you're going to have to replace just in case there's a big road bump, but it doesn't really like impact your bike. And the challenge is I see so many people who are a spoke and they're thinking like, I know how to make a bicycle. I'm a spoke, but I know how to take care of the whole bicycle. Why? Because I was part of this large corporation and they did it. So I know how to do it myself. Not realizing you're just a small piece in a system. When you look at a business, there is marketing department, there is sales, there's operations, there's fulfillment, and there's service, and then there's the team that oversees it all. Okay, so there's the people in the marketing department, there's the people in the sales, there's the people who do operations, there's the people who do customer service, and then there's a team called the C-suite. The C-suite oversees it all. The C-suite, the corporate suite, the top of the food chain, and they oversee it all. So if you're someone, for example, that's like has one little tiny position, now each department in a corporation, you might have dozens upon dozens of roles in each department. So in the marketing department, you may have social media, you may have the social media marketing, you may have traditional marketing, you may have a copywriter, you may have graphics. Like there's dozens of roles in one department. In sales, for example, you may have BDRs, which is business development representatives. They're the ones who cold call, set up appointments. You may have sales development representatives. They're the ones who take those appointments and present an offer to close the deal, right? Then you might have a solutions engineer inside of sales. Solutions engineer is bridging the gap between the onboarding team or fulfillment team versus the actual the salesperson, right? So answering all the technical questions, right? So that's part of sales. So you may have a few different roles inside of sales, inside of operations. You're gonna have the admin team. You're gonna have billing. You're gonna have so many different roles inside of the operations, right? Inside of customer service, you're gonna have additional roles, and then inside the C-suite, you have additional roles. You have operations, which is the chief operational, the COO. You have the CEO. You have the CFO for the financial operator, okay, who's the financial officer. So you have all of these different roles inside of a company, and if you're just like the one person that does the graphics and you're like, oh, I've been working here for 15 years, I'm gonna know it all. That's where the big mistakes start to take place, and you don't. Now, the way you transition out of that is that same infrastructure is done at a small business. The only thing is the owner is the one typically overseeing it all. The owner is the one that's overseeing marketing, operations, customer service, and so forth. So they're overseeing it all. So if you have proximity to the owner, you're going to be able to see what the owner sees, right? You're going to be able to see, okay, the owner is overseeing marketing, the owner is overseeing operations, the owner is overseeing customer support, and he is influencing how this entire infrastructure works together at a smaller scale than a corporation. Now, when the owner sees all that, he's able to uh, direct, guide, influence, change, and make changes. And you're able to witness all of this, and you're able to see how money is made and how it's kept. And if you can follow that entire process, you're going to learn a new skill set. And that's what I learned. That's what if you look at many of the top entrepreneurs, that's what they learned too. They follow somebody. You look at the top entrepreneurs, they just went and worked with somebody. They got a chance to oversee it. That was their seed, and then they grew from there. If they started from scratch without ever seeing that, and they're thinking like, well, my history is I used to just go to work on Monday 9 to 5. I'm gonna just do the same thing. You're never gonna win as an entrepreneur. Why? Because you were operating as one spoke of an entire bicycle. The bicycle got wheels, the bicycle got tires, got tubes, it has chains, it has gears, it has handlebars, it has all of these additional components, and all you know is your piece of the pie, which is the spoke. You end up missing out on creating results. So that's why I say, like, you really got to focus on getting with the right person first, strategically learning from them, and then from there, jumping off doing your own thing after you have enough experience and you have enough money coming in.
Well, there you have it. He just said, don't be a spoke. Don't be a bicycle spoke and assume that you're just going to make $1 million. But
Yeah.
no, I 100% agree. There are levels, a lot of levels to business, which we'll get into more in future podcasts. But I think this is definitely the beginning of a bigger conversation. And I was inspired to do this because we get this question a lot. Well, I mean, I've seen you in some sales calls, partnership calls. I've gotten this question on social media. It's like, how did I do it? What did we do? But I do think a lot of it was also mindset, that we were very clear, like, where are we trying to get to and what does it take? I look forward to doing another podcast on that part of the mindset. But is there anything else you would like to add in regards to today's topic?
No, like, hey, take action too. I would say that take action. Like, don't overthink about it. I think what I've seen a lot in for individuals who work in the corporate. I was just even talking to a gentleman recently. Um, is corporate when you're working in corporate 9 to 5, it's like you have to know everything because you're a spoke. You're just a little small portion of this huge system. Because that's all you are in a corporate 9 to 5, then you're given a playbook on how to operate. You're given a playbook on what to do, and you're honestly given a playbook on how to think. You're given a play, and what most people don't ever get a chance to experience is how to think for themselves, how to fend for themselves, and because entrepreneurship is the unknown, having a side hustle is the unknown. What typically happens that I start to see is that people who are trying to go from corporate 9 to 5 is that they think a lot. They think, they never take action. And what happens is the marketplace moves quickly. So in November, I think it was November of 2022 when ChatGPT came out, like around October, November, or maybe even September, when I started seeing ChatGPT at least. I took action on it right then and there. But then there were people who were still like, I don't know. And still to this day, they're still like, I don't know if I'm gonna use AI. And we're like, AI is 2 years. ChatGPT is 2 years public at this point, right? There's it's gonna replace some people's jobs. Are you gonna be ahead of the curve or are you gonna be behind it, right? And that's what's happening with when I see some individuals who go from corporate to 9 to 5, is that they go from 9 to 5 to entrepreneurship, is that they think so much and they think of all of the different scenarios, and then they never take any action to the point where whatever they're thinking about is actually obsolete. So you're actually hurting your results by not taking action. Entrepreneurship, you don't have a playbook. You don't have a step-by-step guide. There's not a standard operating procedure. There's not a manager that's going to guide you. There's not a form to follow. There's not a system to adopt. There's not a wiki intranet to go in and search how do I do this. Like you have YouTube, you have coaching programs, you have mentors, but the way to start is to just do it. It's just to do it, and you got to do it in real time. And if there is gonna be a playbook, just like a playbook, if the playbook is well developed, and that means so many people have done it before you, then you're gonna be behind the curve. That means you're behind the curve. So you either A want to be creating that playbook. That the way to create that playbook is to start taking action. Just get started right now and just start doing it. And when you start doing, you start changing, you start changing, you start changing. I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years. And every day I'm learning something new. I'm learning about how money works, how technology is working, how to lead team members, how to incorporate a personal life, how to be a husband. Like every day I'm learning something new. And I've been doing this for 3,650 days of just grind and work every single day for 10 years. I've been doing this. And I still think there's a lot to learn. I think I'm just scraping the surface of entrepreneurship. But if all the knowledge that I have today, even if I spent the last 10 years thinking about it, I would not have the current knowledge that I have today. Because the knowledge that I have today, all 100% came from action. So you take action, you learn, you do again. Take action, learn, do again, and optimize and get better and get better and get better. And then you're gonna get to a point where you're gonna have freedom. And even when you have the financial freedom, you're making the money. Like my wife and I, we went to Hawaii last week, where I'm showing her the account. I'm like, we're still making revenue, we're still making money. I'm not even working. Hey, this is what life has, given us. I'm still coming back. I'm still on fire because I have different ideas and different plans, and it's all gonna take a different version of me. And it's gonna all take a learning curve, but I'm just gonna do. And I'm going into a different level of entrepreneurship now, and I'm just gonna do it. And I'm just like, I'll figure it out when I get there. And that's what real entrepreneurship looks like. Just do it.
You got to take the risk. I agree. Well, I appreciate you sharing some tips and advice. We look forward to the next podcast and we hope that you all have an amazing rest of your week. See you then.